they can't even afford their own house anymore based on today's numbers. So how are these new buyers going to afford it?
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to talk about what everyone is talking about. That is interest rates. Interest rates. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Wake up in the middle of the night with the sweats, the interest rate sweats.
Yes.
And then a couple other news stories circulating around the real estate industry. So, Shawn, first of all, how are you? How's the Airbnb? How are things going? You were just there.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's been a whirlwind couple of days or a week, traveling to different spots and then come home and then have to go to the Airbnb and try to get the property ready for an Airbnb. So I bought it 3 weeks ago, a little over about 3 weeks ago, and we have to do some work to it. But you know what? The problem is, it's just like me when I go to listings and I'm like, all right, we need to paint, we need to do new floors, blah, blah, blah. Guess what I got to do? Painting new floors. I'm not going to put it on Airbnb until it looks great. So I went down there this past, I just got back today, and I was looking at new floors, and I'm looking at new paint. And you know what kind of floors I'm going to put in there?
Hopefully something waterproof.
Yes. That's the thing, is that like when you start thinking about Airbnb, you have to think pretty, but you also have to think durable, durability, waterproof. And so we're going with a luxury vinyl product. It looks like hardwood floors. It's a luxury vinyl plank. And that's what we had to figure out. And like, you know, once you find the floor, then you're like, okay, this is the floor we're going to use. Now what color paint are we going to do? And so it's a lot of back and forth, especially when you've got a couple people kind of making those decisions together.
What'd you say your interest rate was on that?
7.265.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shawn, from Lance Lambert, new mortgage rate highs for 2024. Average 30-year fixed jumps to 7.52. This is the highest reading since November 2023. That was like 6 months ago.
Now, this is what I want to tell you, though. I bought at 7.25, whatever it is. But that was an investor rate. So keep in mind, when I went under contract in March, that rate for a single-family 30-year fixed was in the sixes, 6.75. But as an investor or a second home, you're going to pay a higher rate. And so I was paying 7.2. I got that rate. But if I were to apply now, that rate would probably be close to 8, if not higher, which is awful. And what does that do to everything? That changes a lot of minds, right?
Yeah. And, Lance Lambert goes on to say that the average 30-year fixed rate is 51 basis points below the cycle high of 8.03 in October 2023. October 2023, that was a real prime opportunity for a lot of home buyers out there, because if interest rates are in the 8, you're not going to have a lot of competition on these single family houses in Northern Virginia.
Not only that, it was like October. October is like the time where, it's that fall market, but that fall market didn't really come to fruition. So like if you remember the whole saying, date the rate,
marry the house. Where are those people now? Yeah. Where are the 2022 real estate agents that were telling you to date the rate, marry the house, now that interest rates are 7.52?
They're still in the same spot. They came down a little bit, but not enough to refinance. It doesn't make sense if you got an 8 and it comes down to just below 7. It's a percent. Yeah, it could make sense, but you've got to think about what the cost is and what the break-even point is. And for me, that wouldn't be far enough for me to kind of refinance. I'd have to look at those numbers. But
like, seriously, if you are marrying the house and dating the rates, what were your expectations for how long you'd have to date? Are you doing like a whole, hey, we're going to date and then get married in Vegas, instantly? Or are you just like, hey, we're dating for 5 years, and then we're expecting, to refinance?
I think you're probably going to do like the battle date, like how I did with my wife prior to marrying.
Why don't you tell the people?
It was like 8 years.
8 years.
So you're going to be in the long haul.
Shawn.
I think you're going to be there for a while. It's not going to be 8 years, but the predictions over and over is like everybody's trying to predict this, and they're trying to say, and they're being optimistic. Oh, the Fed's going to reduce rates, and this is going to happen. We're going to come down this year. And we all thought that because they announced that we will probably see later this year. We were predicting in June that we would see some rate cuts. But then stuff happens, right? Inflation numbers come out. All right, what does inflation do to interest rates? Then GDP or the economy's doing well. And that is going to affect rates. And so
GDP numbers came out because it's like, why is this happening, right? Why are interest rates going up? And at a 30,000 foot view, GDP numbers came back worse than expected. Inflation numbers came back worse than expected. And so the Fed doesn't have wiggle room to cut the rate. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah, because I mean the reason they're increasing the Fed would increase these rates is because of inflation. They're trying to get a hold of inflation, and they did get them down. I think it was hovering a little over 2% at some point, which was good. We started seeing some progress, and we thought, all right, well, if this continues, then the Fed will then reduce rates because we've finally got a hold on inflation. But now to see the inflation actually rise again, that's saying to the Fed, we're in trouble again. Why is this rising? Why is inflation rising? And what is the Fed going to do to combat that? The only thing that they can really do is increase rates. And the thing is, the Fed didn't just increase rates, right? They increased by themselves based on bad numbers. And so that the whole thing you have to understand, and I'm no mortgage banker, I'm not but the thing that you have to always remember is that rates are designed for kind of the market now, right? And it bakes in things in the future. So if they're baking in like rate right now is thinking that in a month we might see the Fed reduce, then they're at a certain rate because they're thinking good news is coming. But when bad news hits, boom, it blows it all up and it goes up.
Question is, what happens next? According to Redfin, 38% of homeowners in the U.S. don't think that they can afford to buy their home if they were to buy it today. And nearly 40% of renters don't believe they'll ever own a home, up from 27% last year. And Shawn, we're not doom and gloom. We're not market crash bros, but there's got to be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not sure how this plays out. I'm not sure what happened, in 2004 in the run up or in 2007. I don't think there's going to be a huge market crash, but I don't know how this story plays out, and I'm confused.
Yeah, I think everybody's confused, and if they think they know, they're just speculating. But what can I do is just go back to 2004 because I lived it, right? I was a real estate agent. I didn't own at the time. I was renting. I thought to myself, I'm never going to be able to afford a house. If I was watching prices go up, just like we've seen locally, our prices have skyrocketed again. And so at that time I was looking and I'm like, man, am I ever going to be able to afford a house? Because these prices seem to be going up in the condo market that I was looking at, like 10 grand a month. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to afford this. I got to get in. Right. And so that's why I jumped in, and my interest rate at that time was 6.25%. That was my first interest rate that I got, and that was pretty good. But, then all of a sudden the market completely changed. And so all of these people that say they'll probably never buy, listen, markets change, things change. There will be opportunity.
What about the people that say they'll probably never sell? There's so many people out there that have the golden handcuffs. They have the 2.25 interest rate. They're never going to sell.
That's true. And
they got to sell at some point.
That's the difference in this market now. Yes, they do have to sell at some point. And that's what I was waiting for, because I was predicting that once these interest rates got to a level where people were like, okay, I can kind of handle this now, then they would start selling. But now we're seeing an increase again, and now it's pushing these people back in, and they're getting frustrated. But I've had plenty of people this year say, you know what, I'm moving. I need to go back to Colorado. I need to buy a bigger house, and I want to go out further out in Loudoun County. And they didn't care what their interest rate was. So there's going to be people like that are a little more wealthy, that have the money, that don't really care about the payment. They want their lifestyle. And so those people will be moving. But there are those people that are strapped with cash restrictions, and they can't afford to move because, listen, like me, I bought my house, in 2020, my latest house, and my interest rate is ridiculous at 2.65%. So if I were to sell that house or try to buy that house over, just like these people are saying in this article, not only has my interest rate skyrocketed, and it would be 5% higher than what it is now. 5% is huge in a payment. Not only that, but my value has probably gone up $350,000. So that alone right there is just, cost prohibitive. And that's what people are saying. They say they can't even afford their own house anymore based on today's numbers. So how are these new buyers going to afford it?
Well, a new buyer can afford it maybe if they have an interest rate in the fives. And I had a client who closed 2 weeks ago. His interest rate, I say in the fives.
Yeah.
5.99.
No, that was in the fives.
It's in the fives. Well, yeah, make 100
That's
grand.
amazing.
Like,
How did he get that rate? Do you know?
new home.
Oh, it was,
So
okay.
So Shawn, do you know what percent of the entire United States housing inventory, what percent are made up of new home sales?
No, I'd love to know that statistic.
No,
Can you
this
tell
is
us?
where you tell me a number and then
Okay,
I say if
okay.
you're right or wrong.
I would say, okay.
In the entire United States, percent of homes that are new home sales.
Oh man, that's tough. I would say probably 18%.
Okay, well, I thought you were going to go on the low end. So new home sales make up about 10% of the market.
Okay.
Jumped 8.8% last year to a seasonally adjusted rate of 693,000 homes. So what this is getting at is new home sales are flourishing. Meanwhile, sales of existing homes, reading from our article from CNN, which make up a vast majority of the housing market, fell 4.3%. Now, why this is interesting is because if you go with a new home builder, oftentimes they want to make as much money in the transaction from you as possible. This means the house, the upgrades, the title insurance, the lender, the home warranty. I'm sure there's a couple I'm forgetting as well. And a study came out that said Pulte Group, the nation's third largest builder, just announced a capture rate of 84% in Q1, meaning most home buyers are opting to use their captive lender. Simply put, it's almost impossible for outside lenders to compete with builders offering massive mortgage rate buydowns. Now, they're able to do this simply because they can have lower margins because they get a bigger piece of the transaction. And so you will see a significant, it's always like, what's the catch? Well, I mean, the catch is like you're buying a house and you're spending a lot of money with this company so they can take a little bit of a haircut, you know, saving you 2% on the interest rate or giving you some cash back at closing. So, Shawn, I mean, that's the equation for a lot of home buyers out there is you buy new construction and you're probably going to get a pretty decent rate.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the thing is, new construction, honestly, the best thing to do, and I used to sell new construction, is to use, well, always get a second estimate.
They can't compete.
They can't.
You get
outside
them.
lenders can't compete.
I'll tell my guy, hey, listen, talk to these three people. They're all going to tell you the same thing. Holy crap, you're getting an incredible deal. I cannot even touch those numbers.
Yeah. And so the reason behind that is because they've got their in-house lender that is working, and they're all working for that from that same piece of pie, whereas an outside lender is working on their own set of, own money. So the incentives that a builder can provide you are massive. Use the inside title company, use the inside lender, and ask for incentives, maybe closing cost helps and things like that. The other thing that a lot of we're starting to see, and we've seen for a long time, is that these builders a lot of times won't pay an agent commission, a buyer's agent commission, or they pay a lower agency commission. And so not only are they reaping the benefits of having all of their structure there with their lender and their title company and everything else, but they're not necessarily paying out a buyer agency commission. So sometimes these agents are still bringing their buyers to them after showing them everything. They're like, well, I can't buy this. Let's go see this new home property. And the agents are taking them there and they're not paying as much. So they're cutting costs by not paying the commissions, and they're creating, revenue pools or pools of money that they can then take from to then give incentives to the buyer and get them in. And so that interest rate is huge right now. If you can get a 5.99% compared to a 6.8% is what it was probably at with, on the open market, you can't compete. There's no way. And so that is how these home buyers now are having such a good capture rate, or I should say home builders have a huge capture rate now. Their capture rate just went up. What was it?
84%. It was 84%. It like 84 out of 100. Like it didn't increase 84%. It's just
84%.
84 out of 100 people are taking up on the in-house lender.
And so that just goes to show you right there that, and the other 16% are probably lenders themselves buying for the real estate agents or whatever, right? But this is where you have to see the advantage of that these big builders have in times like this, right? And it's, in one side, they have to keep those values high so their appraisals stay up. But on the other side, they have to try to incentivize by giving crazy low rates. How do they do that? I don't exactly know with, RESPA laws and things like that. I don't know how they do it, what it entails, but they can do it.
We talked about Lennar Homes doing like 4.75.
Yeah.
When all the interest, I think that might have been in the fall when, interest rates were in the 7 and touched 8. And I think we remember saying, what's the catch? And, the catch is you buy a house. Like, that's the catch. I mean, the catch is you go through all of their inside systems and you buy the house. Now, it's easy to say, hey, go buy new construction, when in reality, it's like, all right, if you're in the Northern Virginia area, you have to go to like geographically, like cardinal direction, Northern Virginia to like Winchester to buy like new, like there's not many subdivisions available. I'm curious, like the Beacon Crest, the classic cottages, they partner with lenders, right? But it's not an in-house lender.
Yeah, it's typically, and these smaller builders aren't going to be able to provide those incentives. It's the big toll brothers that do. The smaller ones, they'll probably partner with somebody maybe, but it's not going to be the same because it's just not that big conglomerate that's able to do that stuff. So, we do have a couple, like we have that Toll Brothers project, right?
Oh, that's in Arlington, the Grove at Dominion Hills.
But you're looking at 1.9 probably minimum. I don't even know if you can get in for 1.9 up to 2.56.
They start at 1.9. I think if you want, like the second you click, you want a refrigerator, it's like $2 million.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's the problem is locally in our area, new construction, you're looking 2 million and up. And so naturally people are going to go out further. And those most of the builds inside Arlington or inside the Beltway are the smaller builders, except for any condo buildings or that Toll Brothers community. Other than that, you're going outside and then you're going to see the bigger builders.
Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below on interest rates, state of the market. I mean, Shawn and I will tell you, we got showings in a couple hours. You just put on a couple properties. I've been getting agent calls on those properties. Like, things are cranking along. I want to be as optimistic as possible, but I guess where I'm at is like, I have a lot of empathy for home buyers and honestly, even like if you're transacting in the real estate world right now, like, hey, I'm there to help. I'll be your emotional rock, but man, it's a roller coaster out there.
It's a roller coaster. And honestly, my initial thought when I saw the interest rates at 7 point whatever they are, I'm like, okay, this probably will have an effect on us this weekend because people have to get used to this new payment. They're pre-approved. Maybe they're not as in tuned with everybody else or us as what the real estate market is doing or what the interest rates are doing. So they haven't really checked in. And I feel like this is going to put some pressure on the listings that we're putting on. Are we going to see the traffic that we normally do? Are we going to see the contracts that we normally do? Because, last week we put one under contract, 3 offers, went above ask, good deal. You had lost some deals competing against 6, 7 others. I wonder if that's going to narrow the field down.
Diane's smoking me in deals.
Diane's smoking.
She's a rock star. So speaking of listings, Shawn, my new listing that's going to be coming on in Arlington, it's the seller's choice not to pay out the buyer's agent, which is something you're able to do today. It was also something you were able to do 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and forever. And it's their choice, and it's our strategy to do that. So now the question is, what do you list that property for? Because, if you look at the comps, you're like, okay, and it's around 420. If you look at the comps, you're like, okay, well, it's probably around 420, but then these other sellers had paid out, let's say $10,000, keep even numbers, had paid out a $10,000 commission. So the net on that is actually 410. But then maybe from the seller's point of view, they're thinking, well, hold on. Like, what if I just spent $10,000 in pictures? Or what if I just had a $10,000 sunk cost that I paid? Like, it doesn't really matter what the expenses are. The market doesn't care about how much you had paid out. The market cares how much you're selling it for. Mm-hmm. At least that's kind of the mental gymnastics I'm doing in my head, Shawn. So if you're at 420, now keep in mind, you remove the buyer's commission and you remove the incentive for the buyer's agent to go tour the property. Now, essentially what you're doing when you offer a commission is you are paying people to come to your house. You're saying, hey, if you come to my house, I will give you $10,000. I mean, you're only giving them that money if they decide to write a contract. But now what you're doing is saying, if you come to my house, I'll give you $0, and then you're going to, have to maybe negotiate that in or have the buyer, pay for this money. So all that's to say, Shawn, our goal, our strategy, and maybe this will be a case study that we follow up on, is seller wants the most amount of money. Stop me if you heard that before. Seller wants to net the most. And we are coming up with a creative strategy to net the seller the most amount of money. That's why we're doing it. That's why they're hiring me. So if the comps are at 420 and you're not paying out a buyer's agent commission, what do you list it at?
You're listing it at a 420. If you're trying to get them the most amount possible, you're going to list it at 420 because listen, why else would they not want to pay out a buyer agency commission? They're trying to save the money. So if the market is saying 420 and you're not paying out a commission, you're still listing it at 420. Otherwise, what's the sense? Why would you come down X percent because you're not paying the commission? Why not just pay the commission, right? So therefore, all right, so 420, so 10 grand, all right, call it, he's paying 10 grand. 420, let's list it at 410 because you're not paying out a commission. Well, that's shooting yourself in the foot because you're already paying the commission. You're just reducing the price. So why not just pay out the commission? And you know what I mean?
Well,
or if
you're right. I like the idea in my, now you're going to yell at me because you're going to jump in here, but the idea, let's say we listed for 410 thinking, all right, we're going to go under because we're not paying out. And then the buyer can pay their agents this $10,000 amount. I think I like the idea. I think in reality, everyone's going to say, oh, this is such a steal. Let's get it at 410 and then also ask for a buyer's agent commission. Is that what would happen in reality?
Yeah, I think so. And then you're going to have to combat that with, well, all right, if you're asking for a buyer agency commission or some sort of subsidy, then you're going to have to increase the price to 420. Like that's the combated thing that you're going to see because listen, the seller, if they price it at 410 and then somebody comes in and says, well, I want you to subsidize. Well, then why didn't you price it at 420, right? So if you're pricing it at 420 and it's still market value, but it's not showing an agency commission, this is the struggle that we're going to have. It's a $10,000 gap. Where are you going to get it from? How are you going to get it? Are you going to negotiate it in your sales price? Are you going to negotiate it in the contract?
How about we go under contract for 430 with a $10,000 subsidy?
Right. What if that happened? I don't know. Then it's got to appraise for 430. Is it going to appraise for 430? Yeah, these are the problems that we're going to see a lot of in the future. And it's going to be a pain in the butt until we figure out the right pathway through. And these few that are like, all right, let's experiment with this. Let's try this. We don't know what's going to happen. We've never done it before. So, but the money's got to come from somewhere because if somebody calls Redfin or somebody calls us and says, hey, can you show this property? And let's face it, Redfin shows a lot of our listings, right? Because these buyers are just saying, hey, can you show me now? And these guys are just running over and showing them, right?
Zero relationship at
Zero
all. They don't know what they want.
Door.
It's like, oh wait, I thought this had garage parking. I'm not actually.
I don't know. I'm just opening the door.
We just wasted everyone's time.
Exactly. So I mean, think about how much time is wasted. But is Redfin or these buyer agency companies, are they going to show the property without knowing that they're going to get paid? No, they're not. So you're going to have a problem there. You're going to be a lot of people going to want to see the house. How are they going to get into the house? Now they're saying, all right, well, I'm not going to call XYZ company because they're not going to show me because I have to sign a buyer broker agreement that says that I'm going to pay them X, right? And so what are they going to do? They're going to be like, I'm not signing anything. I'm just going to go to open houses. And now the listing agent's going to be like, oh, you want to write on the property? Okay, well, I guess I'll do ministerial acts or I'll do whatever, And so,
Shawn, have you ever listed a property and paid out zero to the buyer's agent?
I've never done it.
So how can you be so confident that no one is going to see the property?
I'm not saying no one.
You just said that buyer's agents aren't going to show the property. How do you know that if you've never been on the other side of that?
I'm not saying none. I'm saying a lot less will not come and see through a buyer's agent, and they'll just come through the open house.
How do we know that?
Because listen, these agencies have to have a buyer broker agreement signed.
Do you think the Redfin agents and these other brokerages are going to look and see the 0% commission?
They're not going to be able to pretty soon, right? So it's not really going to matter.
But right now, we're going to list before July 1st. And so I think the compensation is still going to be readily available for everyone to see.
Yeah.
It's going to say zero. Some people are going to call me and they're going to say, what the heck are you doing?
Yep.
Other people are going to go to the property, love it, call me, and I'll break the news maybe at the settlement table. I don't know when. But
They better be asking.
So listen, case study, right?
It's a case study.
We are trying to get the most amount of money, and we're trying to save the seller money. And I think what the seller is doing is reasonable. I don't know what level of success we'll have, but we're doing everything we can to set ourselves up for success.
Okay. Except paying that commission, which we're going to see. This is a total case study. I'm
Well,
really interested.
So you're saying paying the commission is without a doubt putting yourself in success in the line
right now, yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, that's why else would I get...
But like what commission is the best? Because if you start doing like 4 or 5, 6% commission, that's not going to be the best measure because you're going to be wasting money. Right. But if you do like 2%, it's still probably good. You do 1.5%, it's still probably good. You do 1%. I think people are still showing up for 1%.
I think we're
going to find out.
Yeah, I think they are. Let's face it. Like we've said in the past, I think we talked to builders and they were like, paying out a lower commission. And somebody asked, like, what % of people actually, or the agents actually, have their buyer make up the difference of this commission? And they're like 0, like none.
So I think I'm just convinced that everyone thinks that no one is going to see properties if there's a 0% buyer agent commission. And I'm not sold on that being the truth. I think if a property fits their criteria and it's everything that they've been looking for. By the way, no 2 bedrooms in this condominium have sold in like a year and a half. It's very rare. It's a sought after property. It's move-in ready. I think we're going to get some action on it.
I think you will. Yeah.
So my next question, sorry to cut you off. So comps are at 420. What exact price would you list? 420, 499? Like what price you going with?
I'm usually, if it's 420, I'm usually 419.9.
Shawn, do you know the internet's favorite number?
Oh, no.
Do you know the internet's favorite number?
425.
You said, so 420, 069. 420,000, 069.
I don't. All right.
If you know 420.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you know 69 from an internet. I think it could go viral.
Oh, that's what you're going to do. Oh,
I think if you list.
Thinking.
Let me know in the comment section below. If you list a property for $420,000, 420 and 69. Like, okay, I get it. It's like childhood humor.
You've got a sexual reference and
you're 10 years old. But that's what people love.
Yeah.
They love 420.
Hey, check out my price.
Like it's nice. It's a nice listing. And then just in the comments, in the remarks, just do a bunch of bits.
That's so funny.
Like, okay,
will you please do it?
Here's
with a 0% commission.
It's a 2-bet. Like, they're hiring me for my marketing skills.
Yeah.
This is marketing on the internet in 2024.
It really
420. 69. Listen, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. It is what it is. It's at a great price. You got to find a way. Like, can you imagine I go on ARL now and that's what they see as the listing price?
Yeah.
Like, that's
hilarious. It's going to get a
hilarious.
lot of attention, and that's how you do it. How do you get it?
I don't know if they're on board with that or not, but
that would be an experiment.
Let us know in the comments section down below.
It's hilarious.
Because I want to be like professional about it too. Because I think we're going to be successful. But I don't want to like turn this into like a joke.
So when does this property come on the market?
June.
Okay, so we're a month before these things start changing. We think everything's going to change in July. So this will be a great case study to see how it actually performs. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested in this because, the funny thing is, I hear agents all the time. They're like, "Oh my gosh, now we have to sign a buyer broker agreement," but in this area, in our area, we've always been ahead of the curve, and we've been signing buyer brokerage agreements for a long time. But there's a lot of states and a lot of areas that have never signed buyer brokerage agreements. And, you wonder if a lot of these agencies actually follow the law that they're supposed to get these signed. And that's where my thinking is on these Redfin people. Like, they're meeting them right then. I can guarantee, you know what?
You think they sign a brokerage agreement?
No, they don't. I was in an open house the other day, right? And who comes strolling in is a Redfin buyer, okay? And he's like, "Hey, are you?" So I'm like, "No, I'm the listing agent. I'm just doing an open house." He's like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Your agent's probably going to be here any second." So he's like hanging out, he's looking through, and then his agent shows up. And his agent says, "Hey, I'm so-and-so," and they're, and then they start talking and going through the house. Well, clearly they've never met.
Never.
Right? And clearly the agent didn't meet him out front to have anything signed.
No.
So that's my point. are agents going to still do this when there is that atmosphere of we don't know what the commission is?
Well, I heard there was one brokerage out there that it has like a 1-page buyer broker agreement, and then like, you click scheduled showing, and then you click like sign on the agreement.
So I've never.
There's ideas floating around.
Yeah, and maybe Redfin's already doing that. So I want to apologize if I'm getting that wrong, right? Maybe they have an online thing that you sign before you ever go, and maybe that's the case, and so I'm wrong. So, but I don't, other agents aren't doing that. So it's a question that right now is being posed because we just don't know how it's going to affect our industry, and it's a big change.
Definitely, and we will see. Shawn, let's move on to in or out, and we're going to go to the Wharf. By the way, Main Avenue, I think, just became DC's most expensive street.
Really?
Main Avenue. And I can get you right into the Wharf at about $150,000. Think about that. So,
Main Avenue used to be one of the lowest priced areas, and man, has that changed. And I was down. I mean, like I was at the Wharf a couple. I mean, it was a year ago or whatever. And I'm walking through there. I'm like, man, this place is like a city unto itself. It's beautiful. They really did a great job.
Yeah, it's big time down there. So, Shawn, let me introduce you to DC's Live Aboard community, a 45-foot Carlcraft and Live Aboard for sale. So we have for $158,000. Want to join DC's most fun, charming, and lively community? Buy this 45-foot Carlcraft houseboat with Live Aboard rights at the Wharf. This 1979 boat has bright windows, 2 ACs and heaters, a large master stateroom, a head with a large vanity toilet bathtub, a forward half bath that doubles as storage, kitchen gallery with a 3-burner stove, la-ti-da, oven, and refrigerator, sitting living area, large storage area that could be converted into a separate room. You'll love the outside split level covered deck space. Great for catching sunsets overlooking fantastic views of the Washington Monument. To live full-time on a boat in DC, you must purchase a boat with Live Aboard rights. Thankfully, she comes with that, and it's included in the price. So, Shawn, for $158,000, are you in or out on the 45-foot Carlcraft? I know you love boats. I know you love the water.
Matt, is there do you have to pay a slip fee, a monthly slip fee?
I thought you would never ask.
Thank you.
Monthly slip fees, $13.50. Marina amenity fees, $3.15. This is per month. Electricity, $50 to $150, and parking and Wi-Fi are also not included. So you're at close to $2,000 for slip fees, amenity fees, electricity, plus parking and Wi-Fi and things.
Wow. Okay. So like originally I was like, heck yeah, I'm buying this. This is insane. I'll buy this and live in it. I love the idea of being on the water. I don't care what the age of it is. I'll make it look good inside. Our friend Dave, Mr. Cartner, owns a nice boat, and I was talking to him a while over the week, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe getting a bigger one you could stay in." Because
now he wants a bigger one. They're taking trips. They're going everywhere.
You could stay in these things. Like that's a legit argument, right? Instead of buying a condo, you buy a nice boat. You have a slip. Boom, you're good.
So there is a note that says the Twin Crusaders V8 model 220 engines have not been started in a decade. And the boat comes as is.
Yeah. Well, this, in my opinion, this is something that you're buying just to live in. You're not moving this thing. I'd still consider it. I would still consider it because I didn't think it was going to move anyways. It's just the right to live in a boat is pretty cool at that price. Now, what's swaying me the other way is $2,000 for slip fees and everything else. You could just go rent an apartment and then not live in this squirrely old thing. So for those reasons, originally I was in. For the reasons of the high slip fees and everything else, I think I'm going to pass on this. I know. I really want the water living, though. I do. You might be able to, well.
What sort of fish are you catching right here in this marina?
You can catch everything. You can catch some nice blue catfish. You can get some bass. anything you want.
Wouldn't the
man.
water be like disgusting from all the gas that's like around there? Or?
No, I don't think.
No?
I mean, it depends on where the fuel thing is. To if there's at that marina, they might not have.
Aren't you
fuel at that
looking for a
marina.
boat for Ocean City?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I am actually. We actually looked at some this week. They're not live-in boats. They're more center console.
Sure.
And they're not as big as they're probably like 24 feet, but that whole allure, that whole water living. I love water. That's why I just bought this house, right? And that's what drives me. This is a cool idea. If slip fees were lower, I would buy it. Let's put it that way. How about you?
So you have a price. I don't think I have a price that I would buy this out.
Okay.
I'm out. I'm not interested. I'm trying to think about a houseboat that I would be interested. There's really nice ones in Seattle.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shoot, Seattle, cold, rain, snow. Then I thought, okay, well if that's the case, then I'll go down to Florida, buy a houseboat. I think, okay, Florida, hurricanes. So it's got to be 75 degrees and sunny. Like there's got to be the exact equation. I think the boat's got to be a little bit larger. Like it's got to be more of like have like the wow factor. This kind of has like more of like a grunge factor to it.
It's
like
total grunge. I'm
so out. I'm so out on it. I love the price, and if you're into water, you can certainly live on this boat. I'm not into water that much, and I'm out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if you want to live at the wharf, what are you paying for a studio over there?
I mean, if you're in Via or one of these buildings, I mean, you're paying like $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month,
$4,000
maybe
a month. Think
maybe
about
more.
that. So that's where, you get a contractor in here, you reglaze that little shower right there. Yeah, you're tight living. I'm sure that water pressure is like, dip, dip, dip,
Yeah,
like
I
super-
feel like you
That's
just
grungy
feel
right there.
every like I need my land legs. I don't
I'll
want
tell
my
you,
sea
man,
legs.
I used to have my canoe down at Bellhaven Marina, and there was a guy down there, and he lived in a boat for a lot of those guys that manned the marina lived in their own boats, and I was like, man, that's a tough lifestyle. It's just rough, Where are you showering every day? Where are you showering? Like, I'm a clean guy, man. I need my warm, hot shower. I need a warm, hot coffee in the morning. I need the comforts. And I don't think a boat like this built in, 1979 is going to
78,
offer
yeah.
those comforts. What sells me is like, oh, look at this little deck. It's always yours, right? But in the end, you probably go nuts.
Shawn, what do you notice about this real estate advertisement? You probably can't see. It's on Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Craigslist.
There you go. Ding, ding,
So,
ding, ding.
You're selling a houseboat on Craigslist.
That's
a couple red flags popping up. It's not on the MLS. It's not. Maybe it's on Zillow, but the link is from Craigslist.
That's funny. You're right.
Yeah. I'm so out.
Okay.
All right.
We're
Well,
both out.
let us know if you're in or out in the comment section below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.